One of the most confusing parts of perimenopause and menopause is that many women are doing everything that they've always been told is healthy. They're exercising consistently, they're eating carefully, they're trying to take care of their body, and yet things suddenly start to feel so much harder. Recovery takes so much longer, your weight feels way harder to manage. The issue is not discipline or working harder, it's that some of the habits that worked well for you in your 20s and 30s begin working against you when your physiology changes. And this is really hard for a lot of women to understand. I'm a kinesiologist, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I have studios here in Vancouver for over 20 years, and we have done hundreds of thousands of sessions. So I'm not speaking theoretically here. I'm in perimenopause myself. I'm raising 5 kids under 12, and I'm applying everything that I teach to my own body every single day. And in this video, I want to walk you through the 5 habits that I see so often with the women that I work with. They're intelligent, they're motivated, but these habits quietly start working against them in perimenopause. And once you understand why these habits stop working for you, now it's easier to adjust your training and your health strategy for this phase of life, which is so key to understand. Habit number 1, training for a calorie burn instead of strength. So many women have been taught to judge a workout by how many calories they burn, or how much they sweat, or how exhausted they feel when it's over. And I can understand that, right? I think that feedback loop makes sense. You feel like, okay, I worked hard, so you assume something productive must have happened. But here's the problem. That approach prioritizes fatigue over adaptation. It rewards the feeling of being tired, not the actual process of getting stronger, which is so important. And in perimenopause, those are very different things. Your body is already under a bit more stress. Recovery is slower. So if you keep chasing exhaustion at the measure of a good workout, you're actually adding stress to a system that's already stressed. The shift that needs to happen is from burning energy to building capacity. Okay, we need to shift that, because that means your training should focus on progressive strength, not how tired you feel after. A well-designed strength session or strength program might not leave you on the floor, but it will make your muscles and your bones and your metabolism measurably stronger over time. Habit number 2, undereating in the name of discipline. When the weight becomes harder to manage, the first thing most women do is, okay, I've got to eat less. I've got to go to my 1,200 calories. It makes intuitive sense. But if the scale is not moving, we've got to understand why. And here's what that does during perimenopause. If you just cut calories drastically while your body is already losing muscle, you accelerate the problem. Recovery gets worse. Muscle loss speeds up. Your metabolism, your metabolic stability declines. And then your body starts holding on to fat more aggressively, not less, because it reads the restriction as a threat. Undereating does not make the system more effective. It actually makes the system more fragile. The fix is not necessarily eating more of everything. It might be starting with, okay, I need to eat enough protein. The research supports 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, and making sure that your body has that protein, that raw material that actually needs to respond to training. So that's where we often start, right? If you're currently restricting and your body is not changing, this is often not a discipline or willpower problem. It's a fueling problem, and we need to understand, how much does your body need? What do those macronutrients look like to optimize your energy? Habit number 3, avoiding heavier strength training. I see this often, and I understand why this happens, because recovery feels different in perimenopause. Your joints may feel less predictable. Energy fluctuates, and so many women pull back. They stay with the light weights or the classes or the cardio or the really low intensity workouts. They just feel more manageable, but they never actually challenge the muscular system. And here's the issue. Muscle and bone require meaningful mechanical load to adapt. So that's really, really important to understand. And that stimulus has to be sufficient, right? A 3-pound little weight with 20 reps is not going to be enough, right? I'm not saying that you need to train like a power lifter. That's not the point. But your body needs to be challenged progressively with load that actually requires effort, that requires adaptation, that builds real capacity over time. After almost 20 years of coaching women through this, the ones that are afraid to lift heavier are often the ones who need it the most. And when they do, the changes are significant in bone density, in confidence, in their body composition, in how they feel every single day. The solution is not recklessness, it's not to go crazy, but it is structured progressive overload with good form and appropriate recovery, which is key too. Habit number 4, the one that surprises most women because it's not about exercise at all. It is about treating symptoms instead of supporting the systems underneath them. Let's explain. This is the one that changes how women think about their entire health strategy. In perimenopause and menopause, most women start noticing a collection of symptoms. It often often starts with poor sleep, fatigue, weight changes, joint discomfort. And the natural response is to chase each one individually. A supplement for sleep, a new diet for weight, a new morning routine, whatever it is. And what most women do not realize is that many of these symptoms share the same underlying systems. Sleep, metabolism, hormone regulation, and recovery, they're all connected. And the single most effective way to support all of these systems at the same time is to build a stronger body. Muscle is the endocrine organ. It regulates blood sugar. It supports metabolic stability. It improves sleep quality. I see that as one of the first things that is improved with most of the women that I work with. And so when you strengthen the system, many of those symptoms begin to resolve on their own, and you're building a foundation. Because trust me, as a mom of 5 going through this myself, I've, tried individual approaches, but I've found that fixing the system works so much better. And this is really important too. Habit number 5. And this is the one that undoes all of the good work that you might be doing with the first 4. Constantly switching programs. This one is everywhere, right? A new workout, a challenge every month, a new routine from Instagram, a new class because the last one did not seem to be working, but you did it for, a few weeks. Real strength requires progressive overload over time. It requires refinements to your technique. It requires you to understand what your working capacity is, right? And that means often doing some of the same movements more gradually, increasing demand and not changing everything every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks. Progression builds capacity. Variety without progression just builds fatigue, and it really makes it pointless. So the women in our ShesPrime program who see the biggest results are the ones who actually stay on the same structure for the first 16 weeks and let the progression actually do its job, right? They're not the most motivated, they're the most consistent. And after tens of thousands of sessions individually that I've done with clients, I can tell you the pattern is always the same. The women who stay outperform the women who switch every single time. So if your program is structured with progressive overload, stay with it long enough to see what it can do. Give it 12 to 16 weeks before you evaluate. It is not structured with progressive overload. That's the problem, not the length of time. And I want to be clear about something important. The takeaway from this video shouldn't be guilt. I think that we have enough of that. These 5 habits often worked well earlier in life, so that's not anything to feel bad about. They were not wrong at the time. But perimenopause changes the rules of recovery, it changes metabolism, it changes the adaptation. And what got you here will not get you through this, okay? So once you actually adjust your strategy towards strength, towards building muscle, towards optimizing recovery and progression, the body often becomes so much easier to work with. So you're not broken, you're not too late, you just need a different playbook. But give yourself a year. You can be in a completely different place than you are now in a year from now. Okay, so if this video helped you recognize a few habits that might be quietly working against you, the next step is understanding what your body actually needs during this phase of life. At ShesPrime in Prime Health and Performance, we start by assessing the systems that matter most in midlife: strength, recovery, and metabolic stability. So if you're in Vancouver, you can begin with an in-studio ShesPrime assessment where we evaluate your strength, your movement, and your recovery patterns. And if you're outside of Vancouver, we have a 16-week digital foundation program. It guides you through building the strength base step by step, okay? Both options are linked below. Remember, muscle is the menopause advantage. I'm Sheila Townsend, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.